Oh, Lord, I need a favor. Oh, I need a favor. Please make people listen. Please make people stop being so stubborn and listen. Either that or let me win the lottery. One or the other. I really don't like involving the good Lord in our affairs unless it's absolutely necessary. And I think it's necessary. The election is over. The political commercials are over. We can go straight right into the Christmas commercials now. All right. But Democrats. Republicans. I can best describe the post-election reaction from Democrats as if they'd taken their new puppy to the vet for some shots, and they come back and told, hey, listen, bad news. We euthanized your puppy. Hey, it happens. What? You idiots! They're just seething with anger and frustration and confusion. Explain it to me! Explain to me! How could you do this? How could you make this mistake, you idiots? Oh, and by the way, it was a Hispanic who killed your puppy. That's the reaction from Democrats. That's the reaction I've seen. You idiots, how could you do this? How could this happen? I don't get it. I don't understand it. Can I do one thing? Talk amongst yourselves for just 1 second, if you would. Let me speak directly to Christina Applegate, the actress Christina Applegate, who I saw take to Twitter in just a tirade of anger and frustration, telling me that her daughter was sobbing after the election, and please unfollow her if you voted for Donald Trump. Christina, huge fan. Loved you for Married with Children. Great actress. Bunch of great movies. When kids get to be around, let's say 14, 15, 16, 17, they good to speak to them about politics and what's going on and the situation in the country and policy and the difference between the parties because, get them ready for the next presidential election, right? If your child is under 14 years of old and you've downloaded your policy and what you want, if you sat at the kitchen table and looked across at them and say, listen, honey, listen, baby girl, if Donald Trump wins this election, everybody you love is going to die. Nana and Pop, they're on Medicare and Social Security. That'll be taken away from them. They're going to die. I'm sick, and my health care is going to be taken away, so I'm going to die, and you're going to be an orphan forced to work in fracking. If you told your daughter that, Christina Applegate, at the tender age of 13, and she's sobbing, well, that might be on you. I'm very sorry to all the people who are saying they're afraid for their daughters. Well, if their daughters are okay, no, being afraid for your daughters and what that means for the future, I get that. But if all the people who are out there saying that their young daughters are having a reaction to this election, well, you kind of put that in them. You put your fears and frustrations into them. So, sorry, Christina Applegate, I just had to say that. Let me get back to this now, to this spiraling into depression that Democrats are doing, this spiraling into anger. And buckle up now, because I'm getting this show up to ramming speed immediately, because I just don't care. I don't care anymore. I just don't. I got to say what I got to say. Racism and sexism. Was it racism and sexism that decided this election? Listen, when a disaster happens, and if you voted for Kamala Harris, you probably think this was a disaster. When a disaster happens, like when that boat hit that iceberg with Leonardo DiCaprio and that slutty girl on it, when the boat hit the iceberg, it's a series of events that leads to disasters like that. It's not one thing that you can pinpoint. Hardly ever is. It's much more likely a series of occurrences or circumstances over time that lead up to the disaster. There's a list. Sometimes a fluke long list of circumstances that just build and build and build to the disaster. Could be like a volcano erupting. That's just pressure that builds over years before the inevitable eruption. Racism and sexism exist in the country. So they're on the list of the causes, but are they number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7? Oh, it's down on the list for me. Personally, the whole racism and sexism thing, it's down on the list for me because I can always just go, Michelle Obama. Okay. I'm not going to get distracted with that, but Michelle Obama would have won the election. You going to tell me Michelle Obama would have lost Pennsylvania? Okay, whatever. So it's on the list because we can't ignore that those things exist, but I'm going to tell you where they are on the list. I'm going to tell you what else is on the list. And I'm going deep now. Right after the election, I came out, I put a show out where I gave some surface reasons, stuff I had talked about many times in the past. But this episode, I'm going to go deep for you on some reasons. I'm going to tell you what's on the list that's not even really the Democrats' fault, that they really couldn't control in this election. And then, unlike any other, I think, most other podcasts or news programs or radio shows or Twitter accounts, I'm going to give you some ideas. I'm going to give you some suggestions. I'm going to give you some solutions. But I don't even know if they're solutions because if nobody listens to me and I give solutions and nobody hears them and nobody tries them, then we'll never know if they would have been solutions. Now, would we have? And so keep that in mind, too. I've been sitting here for 3 years trying to offer up some ideas, suggestions, and solutions. I think I've been giving good information here for the past 3 years on this podcast. Yes, I do. Yes, I most certainly do. And it's there for anyone who wants to go listen to it. I don't expect anybody to go back and listen to 100 and how many ever episodes, 120, 25, 30. I don't know how many episodes I have. But, hey, I would ask people, I would hope, I would pray that people would go and they'd say, you know what? I'm going to randomly go through, take a look at the titles. I'm going to pick out 5 or 10 episodes that I'm going to download or I'm going to save to listen to later. I would hope that people will do that, and they will find out. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. A lot of what this guy, this stupid idiot on this podcast has been saying for 3 years, all of a sudden, they're saying now. All of a sudden, all these people have figured out what the Democrats have been getting wrong. Isn't that interesting? So let's give them something else to talk about that they'll magically figure out, because I haven't heard anybody say it yet. I've heard everybody asking the question, the Hispanic vote. What the heck happened with the Hispanic vote? Why the heck did Trump get a record number of votes from the Hispanic and Latino? What happened? Okay, let me explain to you. Let me explain to you what happened. Because everybody, after that Puerto Rico garbage comment, how come Hispanics voted for Donald Trump in such large numbers? Because the Hispanic vote ain't one guy named Jesus living in Texas. This whole questioning the Hispanic vote and Trump and the Puerto Rico thing, it reminds me of when I knew a guy who had an accent. He had an accent and he had kind of an exotic look to him, but you couldn't pin him down where he was from if you didn't know him. And he was a sales guy, so he talked to a lot of different people. And he'd tell me, people would always eventually ask him, hey, where are you from? And he would say, I'm from Tunisia. And people would say, Tunisia? Where's that? And he would say, Africa. And what do you think the people would say? Come on. What do you think the people would say? You don't look like you're from Africa. That's what this reaction from the left over the Hispanic vote feels like to me. You got Mexico, you got Central America, you got Latin America, you got South America, you got Cuba. I mean, just because you decide to put them in all one Latinx bucket or Hispanic bucket doesn't make them all one people. You know, I don't think Mexicans and Puerto Ricans actually even like one another very much. I don't know. I really don't think Colombians and Cubans and Hondurans and Guatemalans, I don't think they care much about one another. So what do you think they care what a comic says? Why do you think that was supposed to make such a difference? What some comic said on Thursday is going to affect the outcome of an election on Tuesday. What made you think that? It's ridiculous. But let's go deep. Let's go deep on this question and let's see if we can figure out an answer that's based on evidence. Based on evidence of what Trump presented and what Kamala Harris presented. They voted, so they're legal in the U.S., right? Let's remember that, too. This what we're calling this Hispanic vote, if they voted, that means they're legal. They're not undocumented migrants. They're legal citizens who identify as Hispanic. Evidence would lead us to believe they're 18 or over, because they have to be, to vote. And evidence would probably lead us to believe they're non-college educated working class, because the majority of the country is non-college educated working class. And they probably are majority from Mexico. That's what I'm betting. So based on all of that evidence, let me put my thinking cap on and let me do a little Googling, a little searching on something I thought of. I'm reading to you now. This is from the Center for Immigration Studies, CIS.org. I like .orgs. I tend to like .govs, .orgs. I tend to trust their information more than most. It says, immigration has become the determinant factor in population growth. The 11.2 million immigrants who indicated they arrived between 1990 and 2000, plus the 6.4 million children born to immigrants in the United States during the 90s, are equal to almost 70% of the U.S. population growth over the past 10 years. The percentage of immigrants without a high school diploma is 30% more than three times the rate for natives. Also, all persons without a high school education, 1/3, are now immigrants. By historical standards, the number of immigrants living in the United States is unprecedented. Even at the peak of the great wave of the early 20th century, the number of immigrants living in the United States was less than half of what it is today. Okay, so you get that last part? So you always hear people on the left, we're a country of immigrants. We're a country of immigrants. My family immigrated here. My family came here as immigrants. And according to the data, that's back in 2000. I'm purposely going to 2000, to data from 2000. Back then, it was less than half when we had the great immigration in this country. What we had in 2000 was less than half. Why am I going to 2000? Well, because I have to assume that the people who came to the country or were in the country had children. Those children would be legal citizens now, eligible to vote. They would be in their 20s. So they would be over 18 and they would be legally citizens eligible to vote in the last couple of elections. In addition to that, I would assume some of those millions of people that were living here or immigrated here from the 2000s on became U.S. citizens, legally became citizens. That would mean they're also eligible to vote in this last election. Okay, so we're putting pieces of the puzzle together here. Got a whole bunch of people living in the country who identify as Hispanic, who are legally here, legally able to vote in elections, but why the heck would they vote for Donald Trump? That's the question we want to know. Why the heck would they vote for Donald Trump? Well, listen to this.
Mr. Speaker, this debate comes down to one simple question. Whose side are you on?
One of the leading opponents of NAFTA was David Bonnier, who was from Michigan and was the House Whip.
The working people who stand against this treaty don't have degrees from Harvard. They don't study economic models, but they know when the deck is stacked against them. They know it's not fair to ask American workers to compete against Mexican workers who earn $1 an hour.
Oh, we're getting deep now. That's that same podcast, The Daily. I played clips for you a couple of episodes ago, same show, talking about NAFTA. This voting bloc of Americans that some in the media and politics want to slice off as Latinos or Hispanics, they're working class Americans. So the answer to why did they vote for Trump is the same as white working class, as black working class. It's the same answer. It's amazing to me. It is absolutely amazing to me that these smart, educated people who are in politics are sitting there scratching their heads saying, why did so many Hispanics vote for Donald Trump? And the answer is The same reason any other race of people, working class people, voted for Donald Trump. They don't want the deck stacked against them. They're starting to question whose side are the Democrats really on? Just like other working class groups in this country have been asking the question. The Democrats, they make it a little hazy. Whose side are they on? Are they on the side of the Americans living here in this country, working hard for a living? Or are they on the side of the people trying to get into the country, trying to sneak into the country illegally? Are they on the side of the people who aren't working hard, maybe taking advantage of the system to coast a little bit in the country? That's what people feel. That's what people see. But there's one other really important thing that gentleman said, that Democrat in Congress said way back in the 90s. Play it again.
They know it's not fair to ask American workers to compete against Mexican workers who earn $1 an hour.
It's not fair to ask American workers to compete against Mexican workers who earn $1 an hour. Now, he's talking back in the 90s about NAFTA, about factories moving from America to Mexico. We can't compete. American workers can't compete with that. Well, what's happening through what's going on over the last few decades with immigration, you're bringing those workers here. Without even seemingly realizing it, you're bringing those workers here. And it's been amped up, it would appear, in the last few years. And so, once again, you have people who've been here, who have been legal citizens, who are working, who are now being asked to compete against an influx of possibly 10 million migrants allowed into the country over the last 4 years who are willing to work for minimum wage. And so the same thing that guy said back in 1990 about NAFTA is true today. The place is just different. It's not fair to ask Hispanic Americans to compete in the same occupations against people coming from Guatemala or Honduras or Haiti or wherever that are willing to work for so much less. It's not fair. It's not right. And that very well could be the reason why you've seen the Hispanic vote trending more and more and more to the right, to Republicans. That's going deep on that answer. A whole lot deeper than, I guess we just got to get better at our messaging. Guess we got to get into these communities and do a better job of messaging to the people. A whole lot deeper than that. Who wants to get deep with me? We'll continue on. Next on the list that leads to a disaster. Misinformation. I've talked about this so much. I've done entire episodes on this, so I'm going to try and keep this short. Misinformation. Even though it is one of the most important issues we're faced with. But I've said it a million times. If I'm misinformed, where can I go to get informed? Where can I go where I won't feel talked down to, condescended to, told I'm wrong about everything? Where can I go? If I don't know all about Kamala Harris's plans, okay, where can I go where they won't say to me, hey, look, you don't need to know everything about Kamala Harris's plan. Trump's Hitler. Oh, okay. If I want to go and I want to find out and you're giving good information out about the potential harm Donald Trump could do with his foreign policy, okay, I'd like to hear that. But can you explain it to me without calling me stupid and a fascist-loving racist? Can you do that? Can you explain to me the dangers of Donald Trump's foreign policy without calling me stupid in the segment prior to doing that? The other day, my dad said, I should have said my dad. I don't want to embarrass him. Well, let me scratch that. Some random person said to me, I heard Elon Musk sold this Starlink to Russia. I said, no, he didn't, Dad. That doesn't even sound like it's true. He said, that's what I heard. Ukraine was using it, and he cut off Ukraine because Russia offered him more money. That's what my dad said. And now my dad is smart. He's pretty well informed. I mean, he pays attention. He listens to one side of media. I wish he wouldn't do that. I wish he listened to my podcast more, but he refuses to. But he's smart. But I've noticed he's taken to going to that Facebook more and more lately And when you start going to Facebook, you start saying things like, I heard Elon Musk sold Starlink to Russia. Yeah, misinformation is a big problem. But it's a big problem because nobody thinks they're being misinformed. Everybody thinks it's other people who are misinformed. You look it up and you go, oh, okay. The Pentagon said, yeah, we're working hard to make sure Russia, we get them out of the Starlink. They've hacked into Starlink in some circumstances, and we're working hard to get them out of that. But no, Elon Musk did not sell Starlink to Russia. Elon Musk did not give his Starlink communication satellites to Russia. No, he didn't do that. That's what the Pentagon said. Not Elon Musk, the Pentagon. So if I said to you, hey, did you hear? Did you hear Boeing? You know, Boeing, yeah, they're selling fighter jets to Russia to attack Ukraine. I would hope the first question you would ask me is, did the Pentagon have a problem with that? I would hope that's what the question would be, that we don't just run with things like that. But we do. For some reason, we do. It's a problem. It's a problem because no one thinks they're doing it. I made a joke to you before in another episode. I said, hey, if somebody said to you, did you hear they're changing the name of great white shark to great gray shark? Because people said, how come it's great? Because it's white? That's white supremacy. Now, I said to you, if somebody says that to you, if somebody shares that with you, you should probably get away from that person. But I realize now, we hear so much ridiculous stuff, we go, I don't know, maybe. I mean, after all, we did have to change the name of Uncle Ben's rice, so I don't know. So that's a problem. That's why misinformation is a problem, because no matter how ridiculous something is you hear today, you go, I don't know, could be. So yeah, put misinformation around the top of the list as to why this election went the way it went. Next on the list, the economic message. The Democrats' economic message sucked. It sucked. Sorry, I'm doing my best here not to do an I told you so episode. I don't want to do a I told you so episode, but I hammered the Democrats on this economic message they were trying to sell for 2 years. The message was, hey, things are good. Sure, prices are high, but that's because of corporate greed, and they're coming down, and our economy is the envy of the world, and GDP is up, and unemployment's at record lows, and the stock market is setting records. Stupid Trump said it with claps, ha, 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 ha. Anyone who tells you the economy isn't great is lying to you. That's been the economic message. And what did I say? Yeah, but there's one thing you can't lie to me about. What did I say? You can't lie to me about how much money I have in my pocket today. That's the economy. That's all that matters. That's my economy. That's people's economy. All that other stuff is irrelevant. How much money do I have in my pocket today? That's all that matters. Once I feel good about that, about how much money I have in my pocket, figuratively, then I can start thinking about the other stuff and who's better for my fiscal future. But the message sucked because they spent all their time trying to convince people prices aren't as high as you think, and you're not doing as bad as you think. No, Bidenomics. No, things are actually good. While on the other hand, Trump's message was, it was better when I was president. That was it. That was his message. Hey, it was better when I was president. That's all he said as far as his economic message, for the most part. The no tax on tips, that was strong. That was strong. That was a good idea he came up with. So with the exception of a couple of policy things here, for the most part, his economic message was, it was better when I was president, and that's all he needed. That's all he needed. And if you want to call people stupid for buying into that, well, let's move right on down the list to the next thing that caused the outcome of this election. Calling people stupid. And I hope people are hanging in here because I know this is tough. I know this is tough for some Kamala voters. And this might be the toughest part of all to sit through. But you got to do it. You got to take your medicine. It's another thing I say on this show. Medicine will make you feel better. You're not doing well right now, Democrats. Oh, no. You are not doing well right now, and you got to take your medicine. And this is going to be hard, but I'm going to ask you, please, if you could, it will be helpful, sit through this. This is a clip that I played on this podcast from an episode entitled The Reason Biden Could Lose. If you'd like to know why Kamala Harris lost this election, feel free to go back to that episode, The Reason Biden Could Lose, from June 6th, and listen to it, and it'll give you a whole lot of reasons as to why Kamala Harris lost. But this is just one clip I played from that episode. Listen to this.
But I'm obligated to tell you the truth. The republic as you know it is dead. It is no more. Now it's time to rebuild. It's not time to bitch and moan and cry and sit in a corner and shit in a diaper and pretend none of this happened. It's time to rebuild it. And I want to send a message out there to the liberal commie out there. Laugh all you want. I know you're out there celebrating, drinking your Chablis or whatever fancy drinks and cocktails. You're all sitting around with your bow ties on celebrating.
Bow ties.
But let me tell you something, Mom. We all know this about you. You're all a bunch of pussies, and we know that. Are you sure you're ready for what's ahead? Because what's ahead now in this place we're going to rebuild is an actual constitutional republic with a new set of rules, the rules you seem to like. Because the smart, tactical liberals, the institutional commies, they know damn well that they stuck that stick right in the bear's eyes and they're like, shit, what do we do now? Celebrate now, you liberal commie Celebrate all you want. Enjoy this moment. Enjoy it. You have no idea what's coming. Because we are going to be licking up your delicious tears. Licking them up on election day.
I played like a 4-minute long clip on that episode of that. I shortened it greatly here. I can't believe I played that clip that long. My man Dan Bongino. I call him a man. I disagree with Dan Bongino. I think he does some really, really bad things sometimes on his podcast. But I listen. I learn from his podcast. I get something out of his podcast almost every single time I listen to it. And out of the short clip I just played for you, there are such important things that are said that people should have been listening to back in June when I played that clip on the episode, The Reason Biden Could Lose. People should have been listening when he was telling his listeners, the republic as you know it is dead. And I'm very sorry. Let me put this in context. This is a show he did right after Trump was found guilty of the 34 felony counts. Okay? I apologize. That's what this is all about. He did this show. He came on the day after Trump was found guilty of the 34 felony counts surrounding the Stormy Daniels hush money case. He comes on, he says, the republic as you know it is dead. So that's very important to recognize that people over there, they felt like this democracy was lost a long time ago. I always try to impress that upon people. As much as you're talking about, we got to save the democracy, people who supported Donald Trump thought the democracy was lost a long time ago. Very important to understand that. And of course you hear him say, hey, laugh all you want, which people were. They were laughing after that verdict. Oh, we finally got him. We finally found this guy guilty of something. They were yucking it up. He says there's a new set of rules. There's a new set of rules now. The rules that you seem to like. That perked my ears up. And he wasn't just talking. That new set of rules, early voting, mail-in ballots. Oh, yeah. That apparently was what he was talking about. They were putting together their plan for the next election that, okay, you want to kill us in early voting? We're going to kill you in early voting. You want to kill us in mail-in ballots? We're going to kill you in mail-in ballots. You want to go drag people to the polls? You want to go what they call ballot harvest? You want to go round people up? You want to mobilize and organize and get out there and drag people to the polls to vote? We're going to mobilize. We're going to organize. We're going to drag people to the polls. That's what he was talking about. It's a new set of rules and the rules that you seem to like. And then very important, he says the smart tactical liberals. The smart tactical liberals. You give me one example where anyone on the left has recognized anyone in the MAGA movement or a Trump supporter as smart or tactical. People, I don't think, will ever recognize how important this point is. And I've been screaming it for 3 years. You had better stop calling Trump supporters stupid and start seeing them as the formidable opponent that they are. I've been screaming it for 3 years. I don't know if people will ever listen. And the reason people may not listen, I can't get away without talking about this guy. You know I can't do this episode without bringing him up. Oh, Morning Joe. Morning Joe. I tuned Morning Joe in the day after the election, and what did I hear him say? We warned you, Democrats. We warned you about this. I wish I was making that up. This is the guy who I sat and listened for the last 2 years say, Donald Trump, he lost in 2018, and he lost in 2019, and he lost in 2020, and he lost in 2021, and he lost in 2022. And Republicans, when are they going to learn? They're going to lose with Donald Trump in 2024. That's what Morning Joe Scarborough, sat and said on his show almost every day for a year. For a year. He was making up years. He was making up years there weren't even elections. He was saying Donald Trump lost the election. And the day after the election, you think he came on and said, boy, did we get that wrong? Nope. Nope. He came right on his show and said, we told you, Democrats, we warned you about this. You think anybody took to Twitter? Anybody from these big, huge organizations, these left-leaning organizations, these Occupy Democrats, this Midas Touch, these Republicans against Trump, this Rick Wilson, this Steve Schmidt, you think any of these guys came on Twitter the next day and said, boy, did we get that wrong? No, they came on and said, these idiots, these stupid idiots don't even know they're destroying the country. Haven't learned a thing. Haven't learned a thing. These Republicans are so stupid. And I sit here and I warned you. I said, oh, no, you're being lied to. You're dangerously underestimating your opponent. You have no situational awareness. You have no idea of the effectiveness of the alternative media that exists on the right. They're not stupid. They're smart. They're very tactical. They know exactly what they're doing. It ain't Fox News. It ain't the silly clips that someone sends you from conservative media. Oh, no. It's a very powerful, extremely effective alternative media that can now sit back and say, well, I guess now we know who the idiots are. The people that the quote-unquote smart people have been calling for idiots for the last 4 years, they didn't just win. It was a rout. It was a blowout. And what led to the blowout took place right underneath all of those people's noses as they sat on Twitter and tweeted out things like, caption this photo. Oh, yeah, I talked about it. That's what all of these groups, all of these big Democratic groups, they spend all their time going, caption this photo. And they put up some silly picture of Donald Trump or something. And they'd say, tell us what's wrong with this picture. It was like they were playing a game of find the 6 differences between these 2 pictures. Who doesn't like doing that? And so that's what they would do. Why would they do that? Is it going to help them win the election? No, because they wanted engagement. That's all. They just wanted engagement. That gets you engagement. Getting people to respond to a stupid caption in this photo tweet increases their engagement, makes them more visible on Twitter, gets them more followers. As I told you last episode, it's all about their influence and making money. That's what they spend all their time doing. Caption this photo. Tell me what's wrong with this photo. Or take a look at what this crazy thing Marjorie Taylor Greene said. Or take a look at this crazy thing Lauren Boebert said. Or take a look at this video from this stupid conservative MAGA supporter out here. Take a look at this dumb thing she said. She can't even answer this simple question. That's what they spend all their time with. That's what the people who think they're smart, that's what they use their platform to do leading up to this election. And then they got routed. And after they got routed, they came on the next day and they're calling other people stupid. Yeah, you can start calling people stupid maybe when you stop acting stupid, liberal media. Next on the list. Man, I told you I'd give you some reasons outside of the Democrats' control. So let me run through a few quickly. Let me just run through a few. This is stuff that Democrats, they lost the election, but there's some things they really couldn't do much about. Donald Trump is a shake weight. That's what he is. Donald Trump is a shake weight. Remember the shake weight? The fitness industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry. And a lot of stuff being sold on TV is stuff that, you kind of should know better. You know you're not going to get rock-hard abs by shaking some weight. You really should know that. But somehow they sell millions. That's Donald Trump. He's marketed himself in a way that a lot of people know, you know what, I probably shouldn't be voting for this guy, and then millions of people vote for him for many reasons, some obvious, some not so obvious. You know better, but you say, maybe, just maybe there's something to him, and I will get rock hard abs if I vote for him, if I buy this shake weight. So Democrats they're the victims of that. There's nothing really they can do about that human nature because everybody does it. Everybody buys something or does something and they know, man, why am I doing this? I know I'm wasting my money here, but it's $15. I'll go ahead and buy it. Everybody falls for it one time or another. And so that's something that Democrats, that's outside of their control. Another thing that they probably really should have talked about a lot more, Democrats, they were kind of victims of their own success in a way. I said Joe Biden was not a horrible president. He wasn't FDR. He wasn't Lyndon Johnson. He wasn't the greatest president we've ever had, as some people wanted to insist on telling you. But he wasn't a horrible president. He was a decent president. He had some successes. One of the main successes was getting COVID under control. Well, that success led to other problems down the line that were unavoidable and unintended. Spending the money that had to be spent on COVID did cause some of the inflation. And that bill, that last COVID bill that got passed, Republicans were pushing the very same bill leading into the 2020 election. So had Donald Trump gotten elected, Republicans would have passed that same bill. They would have had to. They promised it. And we would have had the same type of inflation. Once COVID was under control, the economy started booming when it was reopened because there was a lot of money in the economy. And Biden was able to pass some good bills, the infrastructure bill, the CHIPS Act, which led to more jobs and more growth, which pushed wages higher because of a tight labor market. So these were successes. These were not things that you would say, well, I wish that didn't happen. But there were unintended consequences that went along with those successes. And that was really nothing that the Democrats could control. You can't do much about that. The messaging around it, that they could have done a much better job on. But there's a give and a take there. It's very easy to look back and say that we shouldn't have done all of that spending. We shouldn't have extended all the unemployment benefits and enhanced the unemployment benefits and done all the pauses on student loan payments and all that sort of thing. But we have no idea what that would have done to the economy. It could have created the economy and pushed us into a deep and long recession. And so then Biden and Kamala Harris would just be having to take the blame for that. So once again, there were a couple of things that they just couldn't control and no president can control, which I would also include in there. The job is really hard. I think we tend to forget that sometimes. It's a really hard job. There aren't really all the, great answers to a lot of questions. Nothing happens quickly. There's not very much they can do without cooperation, whether it be cooperation from Congress, it be cooperation from other world leaders. It's a really, really tough job. You do something for one group, another group gets pissed off at you. You fix one problem, it causes 3 more problems that you didn't expect. We can't let kids starve at the border. So you come up with some sort of humane asylum policy, and the next thing you know, you're overrun. And what's the fix? Because people ain't going to stop coming. The world is a crazy place, and everyone looks to America. Everyone looks to America. We're the greatest country on earth, but we can't solve our own problems, so how the heck are we going to solve everyone else's problems? It's a really hard job. That was something that was beyond the Democrats' control, Biden and Kamala Harris' control, that we shouldn't forget, which is another factor that played into the election. It's a lot easier to run for president than be president. Man, time flies. I knew this was going to be a long episode, but I got to give you the suggestions, the ideas, solutions, suggestions. I'm going to try and do it quickly. Democrats, you are not coachable. You are not coachable. You do not want to listen. You are in a bubble and you don't even know it. You talk about everybody else being in a bubble. You talk about everybody else being in a cult. But Democrats are about as close to in a bubble and a cult as they can get right about now. You say to somebody, hey, can I talk to you about politics? Sure, I'll talk to you as long as you don't support Donald Trump. As long as you don't support Donald Trump, sure, I'll talk to you. You can join my little Twitter cabal over here. As long as you don't support Donald Trump, I'll listen to you. As long as I can tell you why you're wrong about everything. Well, that's not really how to have discussions with people. You can't start out by saying, I'll talk to people who disagree with me as long as they don't disagree with me. That's not going to work. Democrats are not coachable. You can see it in their reaction to this loss. You can see it in what they're saying. Well, Kamala just didn't have enough time to introduce herself to the American people. She only had 3 months. Well, maybe she shouldn't have wasted the entire first month not doing any interviews. Doing zero sit-down interviews. I watched one person after another get slapped down on TV if they suggested Kamala Harris should be doing more interviews, particularly in the first month after she was named as the replacement. People would say, she don't have to do no interviews. Trump is Hitler. People didn't want to listen. And now they want to come out and say, she didn't have enough time to tell the American people who she was. She didn't talk to the American people for a month. For a month. And you went along with that. You were okay with that. For 4 years, Joe Biden did 0 interviews on Fox News. 0. Kamala did 1 under protest during the campaign. 1 that people hated that she had to do. So how can you sit there and act like, well, she just didn't have the opportunity to introduce herself to the American people? You're not coachable. You don't listen. You can't do that. You can't not talk to people. You can't not go and talk to people that disagree with you. You can't. And your excuse for it certainly cannot be Fox News sucks and Donald Trump is Hitler. Donald Trump kept a copy of Mein Kampf, Hitler's book, next to his bed. Oh, did he? Listen, if you told me Donald Trump kept a copy of Cat in the Hat next to his bed, I'd go, you're a liar. You're a liar. Donald Trump don't read. Mein Kampf, that's not easy nighttime reading for a historical scholar, much less Donald Trump. I seriously doubt Donald Trump was laying in bed reading Mein Kampf. So you could stick to the believable things, the real issues that Donald Trump has, without trying to make him the worst person in history. You can do it. I know you can. If you try, you're not coachable. Well, this election was racism. It was because of racism. Donald Trump won in 2016 against a white woman. He barely lost in 2020 to a white man. He was gonna beat a white man in 2024, so you switched to a black woman who he beat. That ain't racism or sexism. That's America trying to tell you something. That's America trying to tell you something. Donald Trump has gotten more popular votes in this country every single election he ran in, regardless of the race or the sex of the person he was running against. That's America trying to tell you something. That ain't sexism or racism. Barack Obama got elected twice. Wasn't that long ago. Joe Biden got elected, 900-year-old man with a black woman as his vice president. It's America trying to tell the Democrats something. They were not happy with them. You're not coachable. You don't listen. You don't want to accept criticism. No matter how great you think you are, you have to be coachable. Allen Iverson, AI, one of the greatest players of his generation in the NBA, played for the Sixers. One year, he got a new coach, Larry Brown, and they butted heads. Allen Iverson didn't want to listen to Larry Brown, and Larry Brown got frustrated, and he said to reporters in a news conference, oh, man, if Allen Iverson would just listen to me, he would lead the league in scoring. And Allen Iverson listened to him, and the next year, Allen Iverson led the NBA in scoring. It doesn't matter how much talent you have. It doesn't matter how much of a superstar you think you are or you are. You have to be coachable. You gotta listen. Not just listen to the editorial boards and the think tanks and the focus groups. Maybe even listen to little nothing, know nothing podcasters like me, who might have a decent suggestion or two because of my life experience. My life experience outside of politics might be different than your life experience inside of politics. So people out here, regular, everyday, normal, working class people might have a suggestion or two that might help you, might have an insight that might help you. But you got to listen. You have a choice. You can listen to people who ask, hey, why the heck is the price of eggs so high? Well, it's because these greedy corporations are taking advantage of people and they're price gouging, and we need to put price controls in place, and we need more competition. It's all about the competition, and it's all about the kitchen table issues, and the rich got to pay their fair share. Or you can listen to this podcast. Why is the price of eggs so high? Because a Western omelet don't taste anywhere near as good without eggs. Next question. That's the answer. That is well, that's no kind of answer. That's no kind of answer. Sure it is. Stop buying eggs. I can't stop buying eggs. I need eggs. Oh, so you do know the answer to the question then. Why are the price of eggs so high? Because you need them. I told you, I have no interest in nonsense in politics. That's why the price of eggs is so high, because you need them. Once you establish that, then you can start moving to the solutions. Well, it ain't right. We need competition. Yeah, and the Pittsburgh Steelers have needed a decent punter for the last 20 years. Just saying it don't do me no good. Just saying we need competition. We need competition. It don't do no good. Sometimes you got to tell people the harsh truth. You got to be honest with people. They'll respect you more if you do that. It's also better when it makes more sense. You might get upset, might tick you off, but it makes more sense. Why are you charging me so much for this hamburger? Because I can. Because I can. What are you going to do, not buy it? I mean, there's a suggestion. There's no more competition than in fast food. You have more options than you can count for a quick bite. In New York, you can't walk 3 feet without passing a place to get a sub or a slice or a salad or a burger or a taco or a gyro, anything. Anything you can imagine. Did the prices not go up in New York? Of course they did. Of course they did. With all that competition, so explain that. If you can't explain it and you just keep saying the same thing over and over and over and over and over again, it's just politics. It's just politics with no fixes, with no answers. You just keep telling me the same thing over again. It's all about the rich fat cats and the greedy corporations, and the rich got to pay their fair share, and I just get sick of it. Donald Trump is Adolf Hitler, and he's a fascist, and he wants to be a dictator. He's going to destroy democracy. It just becomes noise, and I tune it off. I tune it off because it's just noise. I don't want to hear it anymore. Be honest with me. Be upfront with me. Respect me enough to tell me the truth. Be a good messenger. That's my last suggestion. If you know your message is good, but you're losing, it's because you're not being a good messenger. You're not putting people out there who are relatable, who are likable, who are easy to understand. Be sympathetic for me, but don't feel sorry for me. I don't want your pity. Talk to me like I'm smart, but don't talk like you're more educated than me. Don't talk down to me. Give me information I can use, but don't give me information I don't want. You figure out the difference. Make me feel independent and responsible, but don't blame me for anything. Tell me in 4 words or less how you're going to fix all my problems because I have a short attention span. Who's that sound like? Who's that sound like? Be relatable. Be likable. Easy to understand. Be sympathetic, but don't feel sorry for me. Talk to me like I'm educated, but don't talk down to me. Give me information I can use, but don't give me information I don't want. Make me feel independent and responsible, but don't blame me. Tell me in 4 words or less how you're going to fix all my problems. Who's that sound like? Make America great again. A, 4 words or less.
Well, you can tell everyone I'm a damn disgrace. Drag my name all over the place. I don't care anymore. You can tell everybody about the state I'm in. You won't catch me crying, cause I just can't win. I don't care anymore.
Thanks for listening. That's the show.
I don't care what you say. I don't play the same games you play.
The Comparison Guy Podcast. On Apple Podcasts. On Spotify. On YouTube. Follow, share, rate the show. I sure would appreciate it if you would. I surely would. Don't forget to comment on YouTube. People used to comment. A couple people still comment. Can't learn anything if we don't have a discussion with one another. I don't know. Thanks a lot. I'll see you next time.
We never play by the same rules. Anyway, I won't be there anymore. Get out of my way. Let me by. I got better things to do with my time. I don't care anymore. I don't care anymore.